Not every corner of Tennessee lives up to the postcard image. Behind the rolling hills and southern charm are towns battling poverty, high crime, limited job prospects, and real struggles with quality of life. In this video, we're counting down the top 10 worst towns in Tennessee to live right now. The places you might want to avoid if stability, safety, and opportunity are what you're after. If you're planning to move to Tennessee or just curious about which small towns are better left off your list, this countdown will give you the truth behind the glossy brochures. Because in some parts of the volunteer state, that dream of peaceful southern living can turn into a daily uphill climb. This isn't fearmongering, it's facts. We're here to show you the real picture so you can make informed decisions about where to live, work, or retire. Stay tuned until the end to see which Tennessee town ranks number 1 on our Do Not Move list. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more breakdowns of the best and worst places to live across the U.S. Number 10. Newport. Let's start in Newport, where the Appalachian Mountains paint a stunning backdrop, but the reality is far from picture perfect. With a poverty rate hovering around 28%, nearly 1 in 3 residents is struggling to make ends meet. The median household income here is among the lowest in the state, and jobs are scarce. The local economy offers little beyond low-wage or dead-end positions, forcing many younger residents to leave in search of opportunity elsewhere. That out-migration leaves behind an aging population, stretched schools, and limited health care, creating a cycle of hardship that's hard to break. And while Newport may look like a peaceful small town, front porches, friendly waves, and church bells ringing, the undercurrent tells another story. The town sits along a known drug trafficking corridor and has been hit hard by the opioid crisis. Crime and addiction have become ongoing challenges, draining community resources and morale. Yes, housing is cheap, but affordable doesn't mean much when your income can't cover basic expenses. Newport proves that natural beauty doesn't always translate to a better life. You might come for the mountain views, but staying here means battling the harsh side of economic reality. Would you take that gamble, or just stop for a scenic photo and keep driving? Number 9. Lafayette. Next up is Lafayette, where affordable living sounds great on paper, until you read the fine print. About 31% of residents live below the poverty line, more than double the state average. The median household income barely breaks $35,000, making it one of the lowest in Tennessee. For many locals, paying bills feels like a full-time job, and steady employment is hard to come by. Manufacturing once anchored the economy, but as factories closed, few industries stepped in to replace them. Today, many residents commute long distances for work, if they can find it. Yes, homes are cheap, but that's where the bargain ends. It's like buying a used car for a steal, only to realize it needs a new engine and tires. With limited healthcare, struggling schools, and minimal investment in local infrastructure, Lafayette's affordability can quickly become a trap. The town does have natural charm, beautiful Cumberland mountain views and Norris Lake nearby. But when your paycheck can't cover the basics, even paradise feels heavy. So here's the question. Is Lafayette truly affordable, or just another place where the price tag hides the real cost of living? Number 8. Bolivar. At number 8, we have Bolivar, a small West Tennessee town that looks cozy on a map but tells a tougher story up close. With a poverty rate near 25%, 1 in 4 residents is struggling to get by. Jobs are few, wages are low, and opportunity is limited. The local labor market is small, think rural small, not small town quaint. Career ladders here feel more like step stools. Safety is another concern. According to data from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, Bolivar consistently reports higher than average violent crime rates. In a town this size, that's saying something. Residents often find themselves double-checking door locks and looking over their shoulders, not exactly the peace you'd expect from small-town living. Housing might be inexpensive, but that affordability comes at a cost. With little demand and low resale value, buying property here can feel more like a gamble than an investment. Schools are underfunded, healthcare access is limited, and chronic health and addiction issues weigh heavily on the community. To be fair, Bolivar has history, heart, and people who care deeply about their town. But when the economy stagnates and crime remains high, good intentions can only go so far. So ask yourself, would you risk small-town affordability if it came packaged with poverty, crime, and limited opportunity? Or would you just drive past and keep your wallet, and your peace of mind, intact? Number 7. Brownsville. Coming in at number 7 is Brownsville, a town that proves not every road in Tennessee leads to prosperity. Some just circle back to the same old problems. With a poverty rate around 27.5%, more than a quarter of residents are struggling to get by. And this isn't a statistical fluke, Data USA confirms it. No matter where you look, the story stays the same. Brownsville's poverty problem is stubborn, like a houseguest who eats your food and never leaves. One of the biggest red flags here is homeownership. Less than 45% of residents actually own their homes. That might not sound alarming, but homeownership is one of the most dependable ways to build wealth. Without it, people are stuck renting indefinitely, basically throwing money into a bonfire every month and hoping it keeps them warm. The local economy doesn't help. While nearby Memphis has its share of problems, at least it offers jobs. Brownsville, on the other hand, feels like it's been left out of Tennessee's growth story entirely. Sure, there's talk of new development projects in West Tennessee, but for now, progress feels sluggish at best. The median household income here is nothing to boast about, and the entrenched poverty makes it difficult to attract outside investment. As a result, schools, healthcare, and infrastructure all feel the strain. When a large portion of your population lives in poverty, that stress trickles down to every part of community life. Add limited opportunities for young people, and it's easy to see why many leave in search of better prospects, turning Brownsville into a revolving door town. The young move out, the old stay behind, and the cycle continues. That said, Brownsville isn't without heart. Its cultural roots run deep, and there's a strong sense of community among those who stick it out. But potential doesn't pay the bills, and good intentions won't fix an economy stuck in neutral. So here's the real question. Would you gamble on Brownsville's, maybe someday, growth, or take one look at that 27.5% poverty rate and fragile economic structure and decide this isn't where you plant roots? Number 6. Dyersburg. Landing at number 6 is Dyersburg, a town that calls itself the gateway to everywhere. It's a catchy slogan, until you realize for many residents, it feels more like the gateway to nowhere. With poverty topping 23%, nearly 1 in 4 residents is living on the edge, and not the thrilling skydiving kind. More like the "can I keep the lights on this month?" edge. The median household income lags well behind both state and national averages, meaning paychecks stretch thinner than a rubber band in a slingshot. On paper, housing looks affordable. The typical home value sits around $162,000, but instead of appreciating, it's actually been declining. That's not stagnation. That's your so-called investment losing value before you've even unpacked the boxes. Cheap housing only helps if the local economy supports it. Otherwise, it's like buying a boat with a hole in it. Looks fine in the driveway, but sinks the moment it hits the water. In Dyersburg, those sinking home values reflect deeper issues: a weak job market, sluggish economic growth, and minimal outside investment. Then there's crime. Like many towns in West Tennessee, Dyersburg struggles with violent crime rates above the state average. Combine that with poverty and falling property values, and you've got a recipe few people are eager to taste. Schools and infrastructure aren't doing much to change the narrative either. With tight budgets and aging facilities, it's hard to give families the tools they need to break the cycle. Healthcare access is also limited. You'll get the basics, but not much beyond that. Still, Dyersburg isn't hopeless. Its location gives it potential, close enough to larger markets to attract growth if the right investments come along. The question is, will that turnaround ever happen? Would you bet on Dyersburg's low-cost housing and future rebound, or take one look at the poverty rate, stagnant economy, and fading property values and decide that Gateway to Everywhere is best used as an exit ramp? Number 5. Covington. Cracking the top 5 is Covington, a town that shows what happens when low incomes and high vulnerability collide. With a poverty rate between 25 and 26%, more than 1 in 4 residents faces financial hardship. The median household income hovers around $43,500, nearly $20,000 below the national average. Translation: that's not a financial cushion. It's a thin motel pillow that leaves you sore in the morning. Covington sits in West Tennessee, a region flagged by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's 2023 report for having above-average violent crime rates. When your entire region makes that list, it's not the kind of recognition you want on your "Welcome to Covington" sign. Safety concerns aside, Covington's economy faces a deeper issue: vulnerability. Low incomes limit spending power, which weakens local businesses, leading to fewer jobs, which then fuels more poverty. It's a cycle that feels less like a merry-go-round and more like a treadmill you never agreed to run on. Yes, housing is affordable, but affordability in a low-income town is a double-edged sword. You can buy a home without emptying your wallet, but with weak job growth and crime concerns, property values barely move. Buying here isn't wealth building, it's wealth waiting. Schools and healthcare also struggle under tight budgets, making it a tough sell for families looking to relocate. Covington's strong community spirit and resilience are admirable, but grit alone can't offset the numbers. So ask yourself, would you settle down where affordability comes with built-in risk? Or would you see Covington's poverty rate, low income, and crime warnings and decide this is one small town best admired from the highway? Number 4. Ripley. Rolling in at number 4 is Ripley, a town caught in a loop of economic stagnation and persistent poverty. With nearly 28 to 29% of residents living below the poverty line, this isn't a temporary setback, it's a way of life for many. Every paycheck feels like a balancing act: rent or groceries, medicine or gas, heat or hope. The median income of around $39,000 stretches thinner than the cheese on a budget pizza. The real challenge? Ripley's poverty isn't new. It's entrenched, baked into the community after decades of limited opportunity. As younger residents move away for better jobs, the town loses its future workforce and the momentum needed for change. Then there's crime, another hurdle Ripley can't seem to clear. Like other towns in West Tennessee, violent crime rates here remain stubbornly high. When your population is small enough to know your neighbors but big enough to make headlines for violence, that's a tough balance to live with. Yes, housing is cheap, but cheap doesn't equal valuable. With low demand, homes here rarely gain worth. Buying property in Ripley is like investing in an old lawn mower. It works for now, but don't expect it to appreciate anytime soon. Schools and healthcare facilities are also under pressure, stretched thin by a small tax base and persistent poverty. That makes it hard to attract families seeking better opportunities, deepening the cycle of decline. To its credit, Ripley has pride and history, rooted in agriculture and small-town tradition. But pride alone can't keep the lights on. So here's the question: would you bet on Ripley's potential and hope the cycle breaks someday? Or would you look at the poverty, low income, and crime rate and decide that driving through might be the closest you'll get to calling this place home? Number 3. Chattanooga. Taking the number 3 spot is Chattanooga, a city that can't quite decide what it wants to be. On one side, you've got a glossy downtown filled with craft breweries, riverfront attractions, and enough Instagrammable murals to keep influencers busy for weeks. On the other, you've got neighborhoods where poverty and violent crime dominate the headlines, proof that a booming core doesn't always mean the whole city is thriving. The poverty rate hovers around 17 to 18%, which might not sound catastrophic compared to smaller Tennessee towns, but for a mid-sized city pushing tech and tourism dreams, that number is still too high. Nearly 1 in 5 residents lives paycheck to paycheck, or without one entirely. And while Chattanooga loves to brand itself as a startup and innovation hub, many residents aren't seeing those benefits. It's like throwing a lavish dinner party and forgetting to invite half your guests to the table. Then comes crime, the part where Chattanooga's split personality really shows. Tennessee's violent crime rate in 2023 was about 628 incidents per 100,000 people, roughly 73% above the national average. That means even an average Tennessee city is already playing in the danger zone, and Chattanooga's rougher neighborhoods push those numbers higher. Downtown may look like a travel brochure, but stray a few blocks too far and that scenic riverfront stroll can start to feel like an episode of Cops. Housing tells a similar story. Chattanooga gets called affordable, but affordability is relative. Property values in trendy neighborhoods are climbing fast, pricing out longtime locals, while struggling areas see little to no appreciation. Depending on your zip code, you're either watching your equity soar or wondering if your house will sell at all. And here's the thing. Chattanooga has all the right ingredients: natural beauty, economic potential, and prime geography as a gateway between Georgia and Tennessee. But the gap between thriving and struggling neighborhoods creates a two-tiered reality that's hard to ignore. So, here's the question. Would you roll the dice on Chattanooga, betting on its booming downtown while trying to dodge the trouble spots? Or would you look at the poverty rate, crime stats, and uneven growth and decide this scenic city comes with too many asterisks? Number 2. Jackson. Snagging the runner-up spot is Jackson, a city often described as affordable. But let's be honest, affordability is only a perk if it doesn't come bundled with crime and instability. The poverty rate here sits at around 20%, meaning 1 in 5 residents struggles to make ends meet. That's well above the national average, and clear proof that affordability doesn't automatically translate to financial security. The median household income is about $51,600, respectable on paper, but still low enough that one unexpected bill, a car repair, or a medical emergency can feel like getting hit by a freight train. Speaking of trains, let's talk jobs. The Bureau of Labor Statistics notes that Jackson's labor market is small and notoriously volatile. Employment numbers swing harder here than in Tennessee's larger metros, meaning every factory closure or company downsizing hits like a bowling ball in a kiddie pool. Everyone gets splashed. Then there's crime, which is impossible to ignore. Tennessee's violent crime rate, again, sits about 73% higher than the national average, and Jackson regularly shows up in TBI and FBI reports as one of the state's most dangerous places. Local headlines often highlight violent incidents, keeping Jackson's reputation as a risky city alive and well. Housing might seem like a silver lining. Prices are lower than in booming markets like Nashville, making Jackson appear attractive for budget-conscious buyers. But here's the catch: cheap housing in a high-crime, low-growth environment doesn't build wealth. It just anchors you in place. A low mortgage means little when your property value stagnates and you're constantly looking over your shoulder after dark. Ironically, Jackson does have potential. It's a regional hub for healthcare, retail, and education in West Tennessee. But the combination of poverty, crime, and an unstable economy keeps the city from turning the corner. So ask yourself, would you bet on Jackson's affordability and hope it finally flips the script? Or would you see the crime rates, job volatility, and stagnant growth and decide this so-called deal is too risky to sign? Number 1. Memphis. And finally, topping our list is Memphis. A city that somehow manages to be both a cultural powerhouse and a cautionary tale at the same time. On one side, you've got Beale Street barbecue that deserves its own national holiday and a music legacy that shaped American culture. On the other, you've got crime headlines that dominate national news and poverty numbers that tell a much tougher story. Let's start with the elephant in the room, crime. In 2024, multiple reports placed Memphis among the most dangerous cities in the entire country. And 2025 hasn't eased the tension. Things have gotten so serious that federal officials have even discussed the possibility of sending in the National Guard to stabilize certain areas. When your city's problems are big enough to reach Washington, that's no small signal. Now, let's talk economics. Memphis's poverty rate hovers between 22 and 23%, meaning nearly 1 in 4 residents lives below the poverty line, double the national average. That's a structural problem. High poverty feeds crime, crime scares away investment, and the cycle repeats like a bad playlist stuck on loop. Housing tells its own story. According to the Zillow Home Value Index, ZHVI, the typical home value in Memphis is around $144,000, surprisingly low for a city of its size. On paper, that sounds like a steal, but in reality, it reflects decades of disinvestment, population loss, and stagnant growth. When most of America's housing market is booming and your city's still flatlining, that's not affordability, that's a warning label. None of this erases Memphis's greatness. The city's soul, culture, and resilience are undeniable. But pride alone can't fix public safety, rebuild infrastructure, or reverse decades of economic decline. The contrast between its world-class culture and its real-world challenges is what makes Memphis both magnetic and heartbreaking. So here's the million-dollar question. Would you move to Memphis, betting on its grit and potential to rebound? Or would you take one look at the crime, poverty, and stagnant property values and decide this is one city better suited for a weekend visit than a permanent address? And there you have it, the 10 worst towns in Tennessee to live in right now. From small towns battling stubborn poverty to big cities grappling with violent crime, Tennessee proves that not every corner of the volunteer state is worth volunteering your zip code for. But let's be clear, this list isn't about bashing. It's about honesty. Pulling back the curtain so you can make smarter choices if you're planning to move, exploring small towns, or just curious about life in Tennessee. Every place has its strengths and struggles. But some of these towns are playing life on hard mode, and you deserve to know what you're signing up for before rolling the dice. So, what do you think? Did any of these towns surprise you? Do you think one deserved to rank higher, or maybe not make the list at all? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, we read every one. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the best and worst places to live, retire, and relocate across America. Until next time, travel smart, live wisely, and I'll see you in the next countdown.